Tony Robbins last week, I started to really pay attention, and especially at work, I think I'm more of a move away from type of person because I'll do something because I don't want to face any potential consequences. So to me, that's moving away from doing something because it's a good solution or it's something I want to do or something like that. So I'm actually paying more attention to what some of my own metaprograms are. And so it was kind of surprising to me to realize that I'm more of a moving away type of person.
And Stephen?
I know what I want to say, and I'm trying to think of counter examples. I guess I can think of a few, but I think the vast majority of my motivation is always moving towards something. As I think about it, I think there are some things in life you can't control, get away from. So you sometimes have to develop a strategy to basically avoid this, but then it's just moving away from it.
Okay. What do you think, and we have the presupposition again that none of this stuff is either bad or good. However, it just, the context in which it depends on and how it affects one's life is where then you can judge it as bad or good. What do you think essentially would be the best way to have a moving towards metaprogram? What kind of context would that be beneficial? And I'll challenge Barb with that one.
Are you still, are you still having a hard time hearing us?
You guys a little more so. Compared to Valerie, she's like right on point. And I got full volume all the way for you guys.
All right, we're gonna try this. Tell us if it's better.
That's much better.
It is better?
Yeah, on your end. We'll see what we got from Barb.
Okay.
All right, so ask your question again, Sean.
Oh my gosh, that's so much better.
Okay, good.
So yeah, I'm wondering, which do you think is probably a more beneficial metaprogram to have? Or actually, which metaprogram would be, what context would having a move towards metaprogram be most beneficial for?
Like you said before, relationships. I'm trying to think of what else. I think when you're, well, I was gonna say, I think when you're making like a big purchase, like if I'm buying a house, I want to be in, have that context more of moving toward what I want and not purchasing a house because I want to get away from, say, living in an apartment.
Mm. And I think I showed you this, but essentially what happens is there's a whole visual diagram where I have a person that's right in this place, and this is like poorness, and they're facing the poorness. They're looking at it. And so when that happens, all they can do is focus on that. And so that's the key one for me, that when I look at this or when I discuss meta programs with somebody, if I'm just facing that poorness and I'm moving away from it, I get to that place where I'm comfortable and I'm good, but I need to then turn around and go towards wealth. And so, Stephen, to your point, when you're going towards everything that you want in life and you're avoiding those problems, it probably does really well for your goals and where you want to go in life.
Typically has, yes.
And it's interesting for me, and I brought up metaprograms because I'm working with a girl here who has one with relationships, to your point, Barb, where she's in the away from. And so she doesn't even have an understanding of what she does want. Because back to that diagram, the only thing that she can focus on is the problem. She's so focused on the problem, she doesn't have any reference for anything else other than the problem. So she knows clearly she needs to get away from the problem, but she doesn't know what that means or where that'll take her.
Yeah.
In addition, I also face a challenge with this one, and it's hard and it's scary, because I designed this myself a while back, and it was interesting how this happened. But it's paid off tons of money in financial debt. And I got to myself to this point, and I labeled X amount, the amount that I was safe at. And so now every time that I go ahead and I have that amount, I'm safe. But if I go underneath that amount, I have to go and earn more. And I do it quickly and I do it fastly, and it's just crazy. Every time it's programmed that way. And so I get to that amount, or I get close to that amount, and then I earn more. And so it's always for me that moving away from, and then going towards. Once I get comfortable, I go forward. Oh, got to move back. And so I have to make that move to turn around and go towards something else, which we'll go ahead and talk about more on the changing of the metaprograms a little bit later.
Okay.
Valerie, how does having two different ones in two different contexts affect you?
It makes me feel accomplished in my career and inadequate in my personal goals. For the reasons that you just described about being able to clarify, like with clarity, move towards what I want, enjoy the success of that, feel like, yes, that is what I actually want, live in it and be good with that. But then personally, it can make me feel like I'm drifting a little bit, even though I am still having experiences. It's not like I've checked out personally, but I don't know.
What would happen? What would happen if you changed it personally to a towards strategy?
It would force me to focus more on the parts of my personal life that reflect what I want them to be. I mean, it would probably change my perspective a little bit. I just would have to acknowledge that that's a smaller overall experiences.
Do you think it would be challenging, or would it be something easy for you to do?
I don't know.
Okay.
I hesitate to label it as easy because then I'd have to go do it.
If it was something you wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, as it is now, a certain level of success, and if you're happy with that, that's fine. I know for me, it's scary, because it would mean pretty much just risking everything, and the whole point of it is turning away from the fear, the lack, the scarcity, not having enough, and turning your focus away from that, where I've been successful over and over again at moving away from that, and having that safety, having that comfort, means that I have to totally let go and not focus on that. And when I do that, it could come and bite me or get me,
It's interesting. Well, I think abundance mentality is probably one of my biggest challenges in this lifetime. To embrace abundance mentality is definitely a big challenge. And I think that professionally, I am a lot more willing to take risks and beg for forgiveness later. I'm much more willing to do that. I'm not a person to ask for permission, but personally, I get really wrapped around the axle of fear.
Barb, just curious for you, what would happen if you went ahead and reversed it and made it more of a toward strategy?
Well, I think that life would be more enjoyable. But what's the word I'm looking for? But I'm like the woman that you're working with over there. When I'm looking at my career, I really don't know what it is that I want. And so I keep asking myself that I'm like, okay, so I'm doing things and I know I want to get out of the company that I'm working at. I want to get, away from some of those people, but I'm like, okay, that's not to me, like, that's not a good attitude to have. It'd be more like move towards something. But I haven't figured out yet what it is that I really want. And so I just keep doing what I'm doing. But if I could, once I figure out what I want, it will be a complete reversal. And then I'll be moving toward it.
And oftentimes what I see is the challenge in that is that it's been so comfortable and like safe in this, and you like know what it is. I know for me, that's the case where it's like, if I move far enough away from it, where am I then? Like, what do I do? Where do I go?
Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
Sometimes having the problems is actually a good thing, because then you're comfortable, you understand them, and it's not such a foreign territory.
The devil huh?
Stephen, for you, well, where would be certain places it would be a good thing to have an away from strategy?
Grizzly bear. We were up on Glacier National Park and saw a grizzly bear.
We decided to get away from that particular issue.
Good idea.
Let me ask you, did you back away from it, or did you turn around and run away towards something else?
He was far enough away. It was about 100 yards away, heading towards us, so it was safe to just turn and walk away.
Oh, so you turned. So it wasn't the case where you're just backing up, focusing on the grizzly bear.
If he had been a lot closer, that's what we would have done. That, and there was a bunch of little kids between him and us, so we were good.
Kids first. Snack on them, and by the time they're done, he probably won't even be hungry anymore.
Exactly.
Valerie, did you see that metaphor?
Mm-hmm.
With the bear, essentially you move away, and then you have the ability to turn back and then go towards something. I wonder if it's the case, Stephen, for you, if you've gotten to the point where you've moved away from enough things in your life, and then you're able to move towards something. Potentially that could be a pattern. I'm just wondering, kind of for the benefit of us, if you've seen that in your life.
I don't think so. Can you give me, I'm curious why you asked that.
I mean, if it was ever the case where maybe things were worse, where you were avoiding things, or in a place in your life where there was a lot of things that were close to you that you wanted to get away from, and then if maybe then you got enough space from them, and then you were able to go ahead and turn and then move towards the thing you wanted. For me, I'm not sure if this is how it normally works for most people, or how people can change this easier. Is it the case where, I'm so close to the thing I don't want, I can just turn and go towards the thing that I do want? Or is it the case where I need to go ahead and be close to that thing and then move away, and then turn?
I'm struggling to come up with examples of moving away from something.
Have you ever had a place or a time in your life where there was a lot of things that you didn't want?
The only example that comes to my mind is like breaking up with an old girlfriend.
Okay.
Move towards it. It's not right. So break up. But I don't know, is that moving away? I'd like to think of it more as, that was not an improvement in my life. So I'm going to turn and move towards other things that are going to improve it.
You move towards the relationship.
And I thought it was a positive, right?
Okay. And then the breakup happened, and then you moved away?
Yeah, then I realized it's not a positive. So I just turn and move towards something else.
Okay.
Which I suppose you could think of that as a moving away, but I don't think I ever saw it that way. I think I always saw it as just turning and moving towards something else.
Okay. That's interesting. I'm very interested, just in case we were going to model your strategy. If I'm going to model your strategy, what I'm probably going to do is let go of everything and just turn, instead of moving away, and then turning.
Yeah, I think that's accurate to what I did. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that in my own life. Jeez. I missed you guys.
We all learned from each other. It was good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what? And this will be probably a little bit of a challenge for you. What would be a good situation, good context to have the moving away from strategies?
The only things that really come to mind, and I'm sure there are some. The only things that I can think of generally are situations that you can't control. You're at work, say, for example, you're stuck with a coworker that just isn't a good fit for, whatever reason. So you move as far away from them as you can, but you can't, only because you have to. You can't do anything about it. You can't, probably after you've tried to change them, tried to help them see differently, you can't do anything about it, so you just move away from that as much as you can and ignore it as much as you can.
Okay. Barb, what do you think?
One of the things I thought of was if a good time to be moving away from things is if you know that something is going to cause you harm.
Okay.
Then you might, it's not the move away, then turn, it's just turn, go. Just head out, get away from it,
Or in our case, if that grizzly bear's coming at you, you want to not just turn right away and get eaten from behind.
Right.
Yeah. If it's that close, yeah.
Yeah.
Valerie, what are some specific situations you think it'd be good to have away from strategies?
What's coming to mind is avoiding triggers or slippery slopes. So if there's early warning signs that this situation or this person is going to lead me to have the experiences I don't want to have, then that's a move away from. Like, I recently met somebody that I think might be like a cult recruiter. And I'm serious. So he was asking me questions like, who owns my thoughts? And asking about, like, kind of poking at things that somebody might think makes me vulnerable. And so that was like a very, very short, like that was 20 minutes and then I was out. That was definitely a move away from, because as much as I was intellectually curious on where that was going, I had this clarity of, I don't even want to have this story to tell later. Like, I don't even want the story to move on. So I don't know. That's one.
Yeah, dangerous situations. That's an excellent example. Yeah.
Or like, for me, it's when I feel like I'm getting a high degree of incongruency. Where there's so much incongruency that it's just setting off. It's just really confusing, because I don't want to deal with people that are that.
But is that really moving away, Valerie?
Like running away? I don't know.
I think that example is not all that much different than mine, where I see it as it's not a positive in my life, so I just turn and find something that is positive and move towards that. I see it more as a turning to a positive than turning away from a negative. Maybe it's just semantics. I don't know.
Okay.
In my mind, it's like a clear not that, so it feels like with moving away.
I see what you're saying. So, Sean, let me ask you this question. Can you define a little bit better what you mean by moving away?
So in essence, they're the same thing, but the important factor is the focus.
That's what I was thinking, the focus, right.
And so is it, are you focused on this, the pain, the discomfort, or are you focused on the pleasure, happiness, those kind of things? It all comes down to the focus is what I see in it.
I agree. So does it make sense then to you, Valerie, that when you have that experience with the cult recruiter and you go, not that, I don't even want to, when you start moving, are you still focusing on what you're moving away from, or are you just focused on something different?
I think my tendency is to focus on what I'm moving away from.
Okay.
To make sure that I am actually moving away. Part of it, where it's like,
Yeah.
Is this adequate distance? Like, am I retreating the right kind of path, beating a path away? I don't know.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
And the number of times that I have brought it up tells me that I am reinforcing that in my mind. I'm crystallizing in my head, like what started off as a weird meeting has now turned into my 20 minutes with the cult recruiter. I mean, I don't know if this person's a cult recruiter, but I can tell that I am solidifying that in my head through that lens, which may not even be true, right?
So you're definitely focusing on the away. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, to get back to your question then, Sean, I think Barb was one who said dangerous situations, but I can see the benefit of what you just said, Valerie, in the sense of some things are significant enough, dangerous enough that you want to focus and make sure that you remember what that was, why you felt threatened by it, et cetera, so that you can identify it in the future and, don't go walking home at night in dark alleys while you're texting kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just avoid those. You're better at avoiding that situation in the future. So that can make sense. I can see that as a good away strategy situation.
I have another chief example for us, and I actually had this in my own life. But it was a situation where I was actually 20 years old. This is when I was in college. And I was working out with a gym buddy of mine, and we had this goal to get a six-pack. So that was our undying goal.
$6, $6, the local liquor store, you're there.
I even didn't drink back then. And so what happened was we'd go to the gym every 6 days a week, and we were like super motivated and everything like that. And I would say I even had a more of an away from strategy at that point, where I had to eventually turn it into a going to strategy. But what he did is he had the going towards strategy. And so he motivated me and he showed me that strategy, and he kept doing the going towards. And so that was probably what really got me to go that 6 days a week. And then ultimately he got it. Like, he showed me, as weird as that sounds. And, and then I just kind of burned all the bridges and I went towards that. Got it at that point. But what happened for me then was, now that I have it, can I still keep going towards this? What happens if I keep going towards something, and how much is enough at that point? So for me, it became the case, do I really still want to keep going towards something, or am I okay with this? And so that was a point where unconsciously, I didn't even know this, I turned it into an away from strategy. So I have this thing now, I have this six-pack, and now my away from strategy is to go away from anything that's not a six-pack. And so I'll eat well enough, just enough to maintain this, I'll diet just enough to maintain this. I'll go to the gym just enough to maintain this. And I'm not going towards any further improvement in my life.
And you're calling that an away strategy.
Yeah, in a way, because I don't want to go away or go to anything that doesn't have a six-pack. So what I don't want, my focus is on not being anything without a six-pack. So my focus isn't on six-pack, keeping it. It's not losing it.
Okay. Hadn't thought about it that way.
Yeah, and because you're really good at the toward strategy.
Huh. Yeah, no, I see your point, though. See your point. Huh. You know, Barb and I were working on our certification for NLP, yesterday? Saturday, actually, Saturday. And we were reading about, what was it? Our discussion about trances, remember? What was that?
We're talking about
the Milton model, which Bob Sanders lent us a book called The User's Guide to the Brain. That's one he used to bring to class every once in a while.
Okay.
And we were reading some supplemental material in there, and it talked about how the meta model chunks down and takes you out of trance. The Milton model chunks up to look for agreement, and it essentially brings you into trance. And I recognized in there that basically, you know, if you're so, to go back to some of the examples that you used to use, Sean, you know, somebody comes in and says, man, I'm a complete failure with women, right? And you start chunking down, really? Complete? You've never had a girl? You know, that sort of thing, right? That's breaking trance. And I realized that trances are essentially attitudes. That was the definition that sort of came to me. So, in this sense, it seems like your strategy is effectively a trance too. It's just an attitude, right?
I'm trying to see it in that context. From what you said, and you're exactly right in the fact that when you do the meta model, it's going to go out of trance. And then when you go up and you do the Milton model, it's going to go into trance. I would add to that and say maybe it's not an attitude, but it's the influence and that's the focus. Because in the meta model, what you're really doing is you're letting them influence it. You're giving them the power to influence the situation, to tell you how they see the world. And in the Milton model, you're giving them how the world needs to be seen.
You say that again, please?
So in the meta model, you're getting really specific, taking them out of trance. They are telling you how they see the world. In the Milton model, what you're doing is you're taking them into trance and you're telling them how they need to see the world.
Yeah, telling them, guiding them. Yeah, I see your point. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so for me, the way I see it is it's just really a focus of influence. Is the focus them telling you or you dictating it? In the same way, and back to your example, is the situation, the external circumstances dictating me, my actions, or am I dictating what happens based on my internal, what's going on there? So that was a little jumbled.
Well, I think I followed you.
It really is based externally because if I have the case where I'm losing that six-pack, where I went close enough to that pain, then that's when I'm going away from it. So that's when the environment is influencing me. rather than me influencing my environment saying, this is what I want this even better six-pack or whatever's after that.
So I'm getting more, as you talk, I'm getting more clarity with my own thoughts here. So I think at one level anyway, you're saying the same thing that I was, and here's how I would explain that. So my point was basically is the going away or going towards largely a function of attitude, similar to focus. So for example, I could make the argument that I want to maintain my six-pack, but I don't want to improve it anymore. You labeled that as a going away strategy. I could see you labeling that as a going towards strategy, but it's not improving your six-pack, but rather I've got six-pack, now I want more balance in my life. I'm not going to focus as much on the six-pack. I'm going to start bringing additional things into focus. Balance, nutrition, additional socializing because I'm at the gym less, for example.
Jesus, I want to model that towards strategy that you got, Steve. Everything you can put everything into a towards strategy. It's great.
It's just a matter of attitude.
Yeah.
So put yourself into that trance, into that state.
That attitude, that's great. Wow.
Did that make sense to you, Valerie? No.
No, because I feel like you changed the subject matter. I feel like you took a step back and you made it about how the six-pack fits into the greater context of life or his experience. And it was no longer, it lost some of that focus on that particular athletic achievement or whatever it is.
You're exactly right, but that's my whole point. It's just about your attitude.
Yeah, but that doesn't work. I don't know if I could talk myself into that trance without feeling a little inauthentic. So
let's
I'm a tough customer.
Okay.
Let's cross that over with money. That same thing with money. And so let's say there's somebody who's in scarcity right now and they want to feel in abundance or they want to feel they have money. And so what they do is they go ahead and they save up $10,000. Say that's their limit. That's their six-pack. They have $10,000. They're good. They don't need any more. They're good at $10,000. And what do they do at that point? Is it where they focus on still keeping that $10,000? Or is it the focus where they go and they see other investment opportunities and they want to have $100,000? They want to go and have $200,000.
Okay, so what's your question exactly?
We're just changing the context and looking for similarities, differences that might make even more sense in this context. Because sometimes the six-pack's a little bit abstract. If I have that, why do I not want to go further? So if I have $10,000 and I've been trying to move away from not having money my whole life, and then I have that money, is it that I focus on just having that, or can I go ahead and turn my focus, as you were saying with the six-pack, and can I look at other sources of income? Can I look at other things going on? Maybe it's the case where it's not having a six-pack, it's not having $10,000 in the bank, but it's having $5,000 a month income. If I get to that point, am I good with just focusing on that $5,000 a month income? Am I okay having that six-pack? Is that okay? Or can I look at having other sources of income? Can I look at other investments? Or do I just want to focus on just having that $5,000 a month income?
So if you're asking me that question, I think I would use the Milton model on you and chunk up and say, was your focus on $10,000 really just on $10,000? Or was it about security? Was it about stability? those kind of things, right? If you realize, say, for example, that it was about security, then you could start defining that security other ways. And just exactly like you asked. Now, I want a higher level of security, but that means maybe multiple sources of income, maybe $20,000 in the bank, right? And Valerie's going to rebel because I'm changing the subject, right?
No, I'm not going to rebel, but I can see how chasing more money could still be a moving away from focus, because if it's never enough money for me to feel like I'm far enough away from scarcity, or if I keep changing my lifestyle or spending so that the amount that I need to be away from scarcity keeps getting higher and higher, I think that can be a vicious cycle, right? It's never moving toward abundance. For some people, it's get me farther and farther and farther away from my perception of being impoverished, whether it's true or not. You know, like my poverty state, I'm still just trying to beat a path away from it. It doesn't matter how much I have in the bank, really, at that point.
So if I want to have more money or a higher level of income in my life, the way I see it and what we've kind of discussed here is I have two strategies based on these metaprograms. One, I can go ahead and I can do that towards strategy, or two, I can do what you just described, Valerie, and I can keep upping my emergency threshold. So like today I'm freaking out because I don't have $8,000 in the bank, and so I got to make more money. And then next week it has to be 15,000, it has to be 16,000 where I'm poor, and I have to make above that to be safe.
Right. And from my perception, moving away from is very like tight-fisted, like I'm holding on with a lot of anxiety, where I think of moving towards wealth as having a lot more flow and energy, which I think is why, Barb, I think you were saying something about this, and I know I did, about kind of the pleasure of it,
Right.
or the feeling that comes along with it, which is why I wish I could live more in the move toward world.
So, Valerie, what do you think about my diagnosis that it can be more about attitude than anything? Your state, basically, right?
I was with you when you started talking about attitude, because what I had in my mind was putting on a pair of glasses, the lens through which I see. But I think of the metaprogram of having a pair of glasses and behaviors attached to it. In my mind, attitude's not enough. It has to be behaviors, because in my mind, I'm thinking about programmed, predictable responses and actions and behaviors that I have established. So to me, to boil it down to attitude, that's not using enough words. Why use one word when you can use 10? That's my world. But you know, I mean,
and I'm the exact opposite. Why use 10 when you can use 1 or 2? But
nah.
I think that I would argue that it starts with, it's not enough, you're right, but it starts with attitude. And then your behaviors can flow from, or should flow from that.
Well, they reinforce your attitudes, right?
What's that?
The behaviors confirm my worldview. I mean, maybe it's a chicken and egg thing. I don't know, but I don't know.
And I would say, you remember the logical levels that we did?
Mm-hmm.
I would say that this metaprogram is the triangle. It's the triangle that encompasses everything. I would say it's very similar to that, where your beliefs, your identity, your purpose, everything in there is encompassed with this metaprograms. And so the way that you're going to see all of life, all of your beliefs, all of your environment, your behaviors, all of this is going to be based on your metaprograms and what you ultimately are filtering out or not in your life.
if I remember those logical levels, it was a triangle, and at the very tip of it, the most powerful but also the hardest to change was beliefs. Is that correct?
That's
Or
right.
identity, something like that.
Identity and then beliefs, yeah. Or identity and then purpose.
Okay.
But the metaprograms is the triangle. And so while you can change it, it's supporting everything. It is everything. It's your behavior. It's your beliefs about yourself. It's your beliefs about life. And for example, I'm not going to be successful unless I have $100,000 in the bank, or I'm poor if I only have $2,000. And so that's going to affect your behaviors. It's going to affect your beliefs, all of it. And I'll get kind of to it now, but the changing of these is challenging because it affects so many things. And so that's really the hard part about it, is it has to be ecological for everything. And the difficulty in that is it's going to change the identity, it's going to change your beliefs, it's going to change your behaviors. All of those different logical levels are going to change. So you have to find ways to make sure that this change is sustainable for the whole being.
It's Sylvia.
Oh
my gosh,
hi,
there she
Sylvia.
is.
Can you hear us? I don't think she's hearing us. Hi, Sylvia. Let's see. Can you text her or something?
Do chat. Do chat.
Chat,
See
there it
if
is.
she.
Oh, yeah, that would disappear for a second. Okay.
Fuck you in.
Just everybody.
Oh, what? Oh,
How's it going, Sean?
there she
Oh,
is.
there we go. We got sound and everything. Glad you can make it. You look great.
Oh, you look awesome too.
This is Sean from Bali.
Yeah, it's tomorrow morning there, I think, isn't it, Sean?
It's 9:30.
9:30 tomorrow morning for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The time
Okay.
difference has been really wonderful too. I like being ahead of everybody.
You were always ahead of everybody.
There we go. Let's go ahead and update Sylvia on everything that's going on here. Just for us, your familiarity with metaprograms or your thoughts coming in, Sylvia?
Yes, we're learning a lot. We've been learning a lot. Yes, I know what meta things are.
You know what meta things are.
Yes.
Perfectly. I'll go over just a few things real quick, and then we'll have everybody else update you on what I miss. But metaprograms, and I simply define them as processes that are at the higher level. And so we were just talking about this, and you remember the logical levels that we did? Where we have purpose, and then we have identity, and then beliefs, behaviors, and all those things underneath. The way I see it is these metaprograms are that triangle. And so they're the way that you're going to experience or see the world. They're the overall program that's running it. And so I told Stephen, you can think of it as Microsoft XP. It's the one that's running all the systems and the software, and it's the chief thing that's going on in the background.
Okay.
And he, of course, said that he'd want a better operating system. So I said I'd have to move away from a Windows platform.
Okay.
Now,
And I, of course, agreed.
Now, what was interesting about these metaprograms is what they first found in strategies was that two people could have the same buying strategy, where they see a dress and they say to themselves, that's a nice dress. They feel the dress on themselves. And then they go ahead and have an auditory digital where they say, this is the dress for me. This isn't the dress for me. It's the same strategy, but they make different decisions. And what they noticed, the founders of NLP, was that these come from the metaprograms. And this is what somebody is observing in life based on what metaprograms, what principal program is running in the background. Then we ran a little bit through the towards and the away from strategy. I had sent you an additional email. I think you got it, where you can look at all the things that we're going over. And if you guys want to update her on anything else I missed from so far.
Well, we had a little bit of a discussion about a deeper understanding of moving towards and moving away, where it's about focus. You may be moving towards what you see as moving towards something, but where is your focus? Is your focus still on the thing you're moving away from, or is your focus really on what it is that you're moving towards, and you're not thinking about the what you're moving away from? That was helpful to me to help clarify what's really what. And then we had a discussion about attitude and whether it's really just about your attitude. You could define the same strategy differently. And I don't think that we really resolved that, did we, Sean? But
not all the way. I have kind of a follow-up for that, though, when we get there.
Okay. That's all I can think of for Sylvia.
Okay, thank you.
Valerie, your kind of take on all that, what we just covered briefly?
Yes, I got it.
Valerie.
Thinking. I'm not sure I have anything else to add.
Okay. We had Valerie. She had said that she was more towards a away from strategy at work, or I'm sorry, a towards strategy at work where she's going towards what she wants, and more of an away from strategy in personal life. And Barb said a little bit similar with the moving away from while she's at work doing other things. And what we're looking at with Stephen was his towards strategy, where he pretty much has a towards strategy for everything. And he has kind of a hard time seeing how you would have an away from strategy on anything.
I mean, I agree with you that there are situations, danger or things that you can't control, that in a moving away strategy makes sense. But it seems like the vast majority of life, for me anyway, can be and probably is best seen as a moving towards.
Sylvia, what would you say that your primary one's towards, or what primary strategy would you normally use as a metaprogram?
Moving towards, but I use looking backwards to get there. In other words, learning from what I've gone in the past. And sometimes you have to go back to the past to bring out what you need in the front.
Okay. So your principal focus is what you want in life rather than what you don't want?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And if we could, I want to ask Barb, and I want to go back to this concept that we talked about a little bit earlier, because we were dealing with different examples. So one example that I gave for us is that I had a towards strategy where I wanted to gain a six-pack when I was 20 years old. And as soon as I got it, then I had an away from strategy of losing the six-pack. I didn't want to lose it. So my whole strategy was just to keep it. Mm-hmm. But my focus was on not losing it. And then we crossed that over. We did a strategy with money. So if we use that same kind of strategy with money, a person wants to save up till they have 10,000. They have the focus on not being poor. So maybe below $10,000 is being poor and they move away from that. They have $10,000 or not poor and they just want to keep that $10,000. Now what we're looking at is changing that. Once you have that $10,000, you can do one of two things. If you want to keep the away from strategy, you can then up your threshold and say that you're a poor person at $10,000, and then you'll earn more and more and more, and you'll move away from $10,000. But at that point, you're moving away towards the $15,000. Your focus, your attention still is being on poor and not being poor, but you push yourself by going that way in the opposite direction. The other way you can go and you can turn around and then focus on having $20,000, focus on having $100,000. So what I wanted to ask Barb is, how could you maybe apply some of these thoughts in a relationship? And moving away, moving towards, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think in relationships, as I can speak for myself, is that one, I know what I want in a relationship, like what I want in a mate, in a partner. And so that's what I'm moving toward, is to find somebody who has those qualities. But sometimes I know even stronger what I don't want. Maybe it was a bad relationship, and so I know that I don't want those negative things that were in a bad relationship. But I don't necessarily move away from the bad things. It's just recognize, it's kind of what Sylvia said. I recognize this is what I don't want, which then helps me better define what I do want.
And so from that, you do know what you do want.
Right.
And so, yeah, part of the problem is not having that awareness of what somebody does want, because they're just too focused on what they don't want.
Right. Like, for instance, I have met people in their 30s and 40s that have never been in a relationship that lasted longer than 2 or 3 months. And when I ask them what do you want in a relationship, they have no idea, because they don't have the experience to know what they don't want. Mm-hmm. And so they're just like, I have no idea what I want in a relationship, because I don't know what a good one is. I don't know what a bad one is. So I don't even know what I want.
What do you think that the majority of life generally, what most people do as far as this metaprogram goes?
I think the majority of people move away from. I think that at least in the United States, I think that's what our society teaches us, is to move away.
Sylvia?
I think a lot of people in the U.S. really don't know what they're doing, to be honest with you. That's why there's people like you and coaches to kind of lead them where they, they need a sense of purpose. And a lot of people don't have that anymore. People coming out of high school or college have no idea what they're doing with their lives. Nothing.
Okay.
But that's my opinion.
And I see it.
My opinion, Barb.
What was that, Sylvia?
I said, in my opinion.
Yes. Conversation we had last week.
Yes.
Okay. Valerie, what are your thoughts?
So, my instinct is that it's move away from, but I'm trying to reconcile that with how often people replicate the same experience again and again and again, despite the pain, despite some dissatisfaction with it. I feel like those two are arguing in my head.
So Valerie, are you saying there's people that have a bad experience, but they keep replicating that experience over and over and over again? Let's say in relationships, for example.
Yeah, that's an easy example. Just self-fulfilling prophecy type stuff where somebody keeps dating the same person, even if we're talking about 5 different people, but they're all the same
person,
quality, right? And the same results, right?
Right. And so are you saying it's, even though they may not want that, they still keep moving toward it?
some part of them wants it. That's kind of what I'm.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I'm kind of curious about that. Like, I don't know.
Okay, I see what you're saying now.
It's a very interesting thought.
I'm thinking it's still based on the focus. Like, where's the focus at? Are you still focused on what you don't want, and then you're attracting that in your life?
That's a good point.
I don't know.
I think for a lot of people, that's what happens is they keep bringing that same thing because the thought is that thing, and whether that's good, I don't want it, or whether that's I do want that, you're still going to attract it if the focus and the thinking is on that.
I could see that.
I got an example for you guys here is a girl in a relationship, and she doesn't want a guy that's just playing games with her. And so what she does want is a guy that's serious with her and truthful and honest and does want the relationship back as she does. And so that's what she does want, but her focus is just on not having a guy that's playing games with her. And so what she does is she kind of backs him into a corner, pinning him down. So what do you want? What are you after? And she really antagonizes the situation where maybe everything was good and everything was happy before. She has suddenly brought this to a new kind of awareness, a new kind of attention. And from doing that kind of behavior, then that's when it brings the problems in the relationship. Then that's when the guy's not necessarily going to take her as seriously, the potential to be anyhow. And then that's when some of the trouble starts happening, whether instead, if her focus had just been on having the relationship and what that would look like and building that instead of not having the other thing, then all the problems could have been avoided potentially. Where she was just seeking safety, security, comfort, and all those things, but having the behavior of bringing this all out may in fact actually bring the exact outcome that she didn't want in the first place.
And I think that's where my brain goes back to that analogy of being very like holding on for dear life, that tight fist, versus kind of the flow.
So my question in those kind of general scenarios where say you keep dating the same personality over and over, even though it's, different people, is it an away strategy, but the thing you're moving away from is an unknown dating partner? Because that's scarier than continuing to get involved with the same type of person, thinking maybe that since you know it, it's something to move towards, and you just will probably know how to deal with it better next time.
Interesting, because as we said, when you have that away, and you get farther away from it, then that's a situation where you might be a little bit confused because it was comfortable, it was familiar, and you could do that, and it would make sense. And you get far enough away, and it's uncomfortable, and you don't know what to do at that point. And so staying with that same person and having the distance makes sense, and it's comfortable, it's safe, and then you can cope with it. There's kind of an also added thing that I see with it as well, where it's an internal change, where the thing not necessarily is on the person that you're dating or seeing, but it's rather what goes on within inside you. And so the most powerful change that somebody can make is not necessarily with the person and the environment and changing that, but changing yourself and what comes into your world. And this
Context independent.
Context independent. There it is.
We've arrived.
And this goes all the way back to the first trainings that we did, where we looked at the mind creates the reality creates the mind. And so you change the mind, change the reality.
I'm pretty sure you just agreed with me that it's about attitude.
Okay.
I just have to get Valerie to agree.
You're selling it, but I'm not buying it.
She needs a deluxe model with more options.
Sylvia, where are you at?
I agree with that. I think that you have to, if you're looking for something in your life, you have to make the change to get there, to find out, because that's what's going to be attracted in your life. Is that correct? I mean, are you not seeing it that way?
I absolutely am. I'm just hoping you'll go deeper for us.
Okay, well, if you change your mind, you can change. Okay. I don't want to say this. Okay, we'll go to changing my mind about getting rid of everything, going to that. I just use my own self because I want simplicity in my life. I'm trying to get rid of one thing a day in my life that, something that I own because I have way too much stuff. Okay? And you have to change your mindset on what you're doing in order to get there. Okay? But there is backsliding to that. So what is that all about? Does that make that? It's kind of it's like you change your mind, but then it kind of slides back to where it was, and then you change it again.
Oh, okay.
You see?
Oh my gosh. So.
Oh my gosh, what?
Because this keeps coming up for me, and I've seen this in people over and over again, and basically, I mean, you make one change, and it happens first in the mind. Anything you change in your life happens first in your mind, and then you see it in the world. But the way that the world works, the way the universe works, is it's going to keep testing you and challenging you. And so if you make that change, okay, today I'm going to stop smoking. Well, you're going to be tested tomorrow. You're going to have to make that change again, and you're going to have to decide it over and over and over again. Soon that pattern, it becomes unconscious. And so that change is permanent. I'm a non-smoker. And then you still make the decision, but it just happens without you even thinking about it.
Yes. Okay. So if you're looking at your mind and changing your mind, do you not have to change the identity of yourself and seeing yourself as that non-smoker? You have to see yourself as the person that's not buying the things that you don't really need. I think you have to change when you look at yourself, you have to see yourself as the person you want to be and living that.
Attitude.
Yes. Thank you. Attitude.
I'm still selling, Valerie.
Attitude, or is it, or is it just changing the behavior? You really change that behavior.
It could be a little bit of both, even, I think. So if I'm working with somebody, I want to change the identity and make it even more powerful. But if it's just like a little simple problem where they have this behavior that irritates their relationship partner, for instance, then maybe we don't necessarily have to change their identity, but we can change that they don't have to do that behavior. And the way I see it is it's generally going to affect who that person is by giving them more options and choices, but it might not have that great of an effect on who their identity is, who they see them as.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
We're all looking at you, Valerie. Not there, are you?
I think, sorry, part of this is going to sound lame. I wasn't here for the first 3 months of this meetup, and so some of this reference back to the early stuff, I'm not sure if I have as much context for it.
Oh, okay.
That's my excuse.
What things, when we mention them, aren't connecting with you?
Well, I have some frame of reference for this, but just not from this class or from this discussion.
Okay, like logical levels, or just the bigger concepts of?
Probably more the bigger concepts.
Okay.
And I'd say that the simplest one is just that the mind creates your reality. What you see and what you think about in the world is going to create your reality, where also the reality is going to affect your mind, and it's kind of a reverse two-way process. In
Mhm.
addition to the logical levels, if you change your identity, it's also likely going to change your beliefs, your values, your behaviors, your environment, those kind of things. Where also, if you change your environment, you change your beliefs, then that's also going to have some kind of an impact and effect on your identity.
It sounds accurate to me. At least that's how I hope the world functions. So,
And Sylvia threw in a little bit more on top of it with a little bit of a law of attraction and the secret concepts there.
mhm. So the only thing I think I can add in at this point, and this is kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about people that replicate the same disappointing experiences or what have you. I read a book this past year called The Big Leap, and it's about turning up your tolerance and your thermostat for things like abundance, joy, happiness, whatever it is that you're wanting in your life. And it talks about how when people hit their tolerance limit, that they will immediately scale back those things so that they are closer to what they know in order to confirm their own worldview. So if I can only tolerate so much joy and happiness in my personal relationships, then when I hit that limit, he calls it the upper limit problem, or your upper limit issue. When you hit your upper limit, you instantly start creating drama, pain, things to kind of scale it back. So it's a pretty quick read, actually, and it's something I've been thinking about this year. And it might explain why people replicate the same reliable experiences, or it might explain why people are in the business of self-sabotage.
I'd fully agree and go further and just say that if somebody doesn't believe that they can earn a certain amount of money every year, then they won't do it. If they don't see them as that person, they won't do it. And when they do that, then they'll self-sabotage and they'll destroy it. For example, the person who wins the lottery, they've been poor all their life and they just magically win the lottery. Most of those people, they eventually go bankrupt or poor within just a short period of time after winning the lottery.
There's a lot of examples like that in this book. Yeah.
So, Valerie, why would somebody have an upper limit on joy or abundance or whatever some of those positive words were that you used?
Well, this book would say, and I would agree, that everybody has them. Everyone has ULPs, upper limit problems. Nobody is immune. Even the author who's been tackling this subject matter and done executive coaching in it for a couple decades finds his limits. But I think that part of the reason he would boil it down to 4 core reasons. He's, in all of his experiences, said it boils down to these 4 reasons why. And one of them has to do with believing that you're fundamentally flawed, that there's something fundamentally wrong with you, therefore you don't deserve, kind of like to your point, Sean, like if someone doesn't think they deserve to earn more of an income, they won't. Another reason is so that I can be with my people. So this whole thing about not accelerating beyond my roots or my upbringing, whatever that may be, and that to do so would be abandoning them, which is very, I see that a lot. I got to know somebody a couple years ago that had a serious problem with my neighborhood, because I live in this decent neighborhood, and it had to do with the contrast between where I was living and where this person was raised. So kind of like that, how dare you kind of move out of your socioeconomic class. Another reason is one of the other core reasons has to do with being a burden to the world. So believing that if I have more success or love, that I will become a burden to those around me. So a lot of this is rooted in the sort of hardwiring that happens in your childhood. So Stephen, do you have any siblings?
Yes.
And you are somebody with skills and talents. Did you ever outshine your siblings in anything?
Yes.
And was it a problem? Were you somehow sent the mixed message of kudos for the achievement, but look at how you made your brother feel?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I can't relate to your life. Well, for a lot of people on this planet, Stephen, just trust me, just go with me on this. A lot of people on this planet, this idea of accelerating or shining can come with this flip side, which is that you are a burden to those around you. So like, simultaneously being encouraged to go to my fancy college piano lessons when I was a little girl, and at the same time hearing about the financial stress and duress this puts on the family, right? So it's a mixed message.
I can see those things. Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah,
so thank you. That was an excellent answer. I think if I understood everything accurately, they're all basically limiting beliefs.
Yeah, they are.
As I'm saying tonight, attitudes.
Mm-hmm. No. Almost. So close.
Almost.
I want to add to that and look at that in metaprograms. And so the difference in what makes the difference here is the metaprogram. And so is it the case where you would rather want the joy of winning that baseball game and beating your brother, or would you rather avoid the pain of not being close with your brother and knowing that he lost and having that painfulness in the relationship? Would you rather avoid that, or would you rather have the win? And so that's really what's going to make the difference. And I think at any level of this, there's going to be some kind of challenge with it. It's what I've seen again and again in the current business opportunities that come up for me, is that there's always this different level that where somebody's struggling or somebody's having a hard time going further. So I'm interested in how that could be related with the meta programs there. Sylvia, what do you think?
Well, okay. If you're using metaphors and you're trying to build your business and you have your goal set for you, yes, you have a goal set, I'm sure, and you're using metaphors to get there. So maybe you need to go back to the limiting beliefs. Are you looking at something? Are you missing something in your metaphors and not getting there? Are you not changing your identity? Are you not,
Metaprograms, right? Metaprograms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what I see is the cost and the benefit. So if you change your identity, are you looking at what pain you would face if you did that? Or are you looking at what benefit you would gain from doing that? And so whichever way that you see the world is going to determine what's more important, what's easier for you to do at that point.
Now that's very interesting, because you're saying to me, do I want to cause myself pain by doing this? Or am I just going to put myself out there and just go for it?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the business owner, and what we've seen, what Stephen's demonstrated for us is usually that when you just want to go out there and go for it with that toward strategy, is when you're going to be that more successful there, when you're actually going to win and you're not focused on the pain, losing, all that.
That's true. I agree with him.
Stephen?
I agree with me too.
I thought you would.
I got lost in there somewhere.
Okay, let's go chunk it down a specific example, because I'm interested to see your perspective on this. Because I keep seeing this with anybody that I work with or in the space that I'm in, is that when somebody gets to a high level, whether that's making a certain kind of income or doing a public event or those kind of things, they still have these limitations that come up for them. And Valerie mentioned it earlier, but they still have these things that come up, whether that's something coming up from family, some kind of safety, security violation, or maybe they have to leave their tribe and their tribe won't accept them as they are now, whether that's a family or a relationship, whatever that is. And so what I'm kind of interested in is just how the metaprograms would play into that. And so say you're really successful in life and things are going great, you make a significant amount of money, your relationships are good, and you still want to climb higher. Maybe you still have that toward strategy where you're aiming for success. And then you hit some kind of plateau where you're just kind of stuck and you don't know how to get even better, even more happiness, even more success. Do you think that maybe this comes in place where you have a conflicting towards strategy and an away from strategy, where say if you keep using that towards strategy, if you keep going towards that success, it might prevent you from having the success that you have now, for instance. So if I go ahead and I make a ton more money next year, or if I go ahead and do a ton more events next year, is there something that I'm avoiding there? Is there some kind of away from strategy that I'm getting away from that's preventing me from having the success that I want? It's making me go to that next level.
So where I got lost was thinking about those examples and of your success becomes a burden on other people. And the one that you gave, Valerie, about paying for piano lessons, but it creating a financial hardship, that's a good one. And I was kind of off thinking about those kinds of things. And I probably have, but I just can't bring to mind quickly examples of it. But the thing that I did think of was that those probably mostly are really about the other person. In other words, how my success in, I don't know, good grades in school or something, how does that make my brother feel? That's nonsensical to me. In other words, if I'm trying to be the best that I can be, that's all positive. If someone else tries to make what I'm doing about them, that's on them. That's not on me.
Well, I would agree with you if we're all independent adults, self-actualized and independent. A lot of this programming that he's referring to in his book happens where there's a severe power imbalance, because we're talking about caretaker and child, right? Like, I didn't make financial decisions for my household. I wasn't the family treasurer.
Right.
So we're not really on equal playing fields for that.
Yeah, you're talking about parents paying for the child's piano lessons, right?
Yeah.
And that one I struggled with a little bit, because that's fair, but then I thought, well, why would the parent do something if they didn't, make a sacrifice, a financial sacrifice in this case, if they didn't think it was worthwhile? And if they do think it's worthwhile, then why are they making the child feel guilty for their decision?
There's not enough time in the world to talk about that.
Yeah.
Well, those are really rhetorical questions in a sense, but so where I am right now, and I always enjoy my conversations with you, but where I am right now is probably most of the time those kinds of, casting a shadow, influence on other people says more about them than it says about you. So if you let them take advantage of you in that sense, then it becomes a limiting belief, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just that children are entirely are living through the lens of, survival, right? So it's It's that adaptive survival. So this idea of creating these boundaries, oh, that's not about me, that's about them, gets challenged when someone's safety and survival is dependent upon integration into a household.
Well, I can certainly see that. Like when I was a child, I would have had no concept of those things.
Mm-hmm.
But now as an adult, if I look back and I feel bad about this or that or the other thing, and I focus on that and try to understand it or be okay with it or something, I would come to where I am now saying, that's not really about me. That was about them. I can see that now. I doubt that I could have seen it back then.
I'd add to it even more and just say that this is the contextual argument. Is it more about, am I moving away from something or am I moving towards something? And so, Stephen, in your argument, you don't have any really reference or focus on somebody else's feelings in this situation as it relates to you. It's unimportant because what you're focused on is something else, whether that's the piano lessons, what you'll get from it, compared to the pain, the hardship that somebody else is feeling because of their decision to do it.
I think that's fair, but I would again add that that doesn't make me a cold, unfeeling robot.
No,
but
not
that
at all.
I've thought it through and realized, well, I've realized what I've realized, whether other people would agree with that or not. But yeah, I recognize whatever the other distress is that may seem to be related to me. I've tried to think if maybe I should do something different, or if I have done something wrong, come to the conclusion that it's probably not about me.
Well, and with the family incident
Windows closed.
and my mom's paying for my piano lessons, I'm focused on the benefit, the joy that I'll get from the piano lessons. And right. I'm also focused on my mom being happy and seeing me play and delivering a good performance. I'm not focused on the bad feelings that she may have or the guilt that I might have because of that. I mean, it just doesn't come into my awareness because that's the Metaprogram. And so it makes sense. It doesn't make you cold or anything like that. You just don't have any awareness of it as it relates to you. The guilt, it just doesn't come up because you're moving towards something else, whether that's the joy of playing piano or the joy of making your mom happy and seeing you play in her performance. It just doesn't have an awareness for it. I want to hear from Barb and how she takes all this because she's more of the away from person. We've been picking on Stephen a little bit because he has. It really is a beautiful Metaprogram, Stephen. So I'm gonna try to copy it.
You're welcome to it.
I know. I think I need to pay more attention to him.
Yes, you do.
I totally get what Valerie was saying, because I've seen the family dynamics where the one child is doing maybe sports activities or something like that, or they're excelling in some area. And even if it's just simply they get more, that child who's excelling gets more attention from other family members, the other children in the family don't get the attention. And so it's like, oh, well, this one, this child gets all the attention, but at the expense of the other kids in the family type of thing. So I totally see that. But I also kind of agree with Stephen that, one, as a child, you're not going to see that, right? You just don't have the experience and the knowledge to be able to sit back, or the cognitive ability to sit there and think about that and go, well, that's not my problem, that's their problem. But I see Stephen's point too, where as an adult, if you're still focusing on that from your childhood, then I think you've made it your problem. If you continue to have those beliefs and live that way, you've now ingrained that into your own belief system versus just trying to change that and see where other people, that it's really not It was never about you. It was about the other person. Am I making sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder, if you take it to the farthest extent, what kind of challenges you might come up. And so I know that we might not get this out of you, Stephen, but what I wonder is you're always going towards something. And you keep growing, you keep growing, you keep growing. Is there any limitations on you as far as how much you can grow?
Well, according to Star Trek Next Generation, well, that was really what was behind my question for Valerie about upper limit problem on positive things. Is there a limit to how much you can grow? I don't think so.
I think there's a self-imposed limit.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what Valerie was saying, what this book was addressing, is that it's a self-imposed limit. Somebody might,
Also known as attitude, Valerie.
But, somebody has only experienced so much love in their life. And then suddenly they feel that they're experiencing more love. They might pull themselves right back and say, no, I'm not supposed to feel that much love. I can only feel this much. I can only get to this level. I can't go way up here. I can stay down here.
I just don't understand that.
You're weird. So, yeah.
Everybody tells me that. So it must be true.
And that's it. I mean, while I know it consciously that there's no real limits to how much you can love, there's no real limits to how much money you can make, there's no limits to how much feelings you can experience and all those things in the world. I think that's where it comes in. And I can relate with you on that, Barb, because I generally use more of the away from strategy myself, where I think that limits me in how I actually think about that. Where sure, I know it consciously, but I think unconsciously underneath that is that limitation that stops me from experiencing even more of that. Sylvia, what do you think as the person that goes more towards things here? Can you relate? Can you relate to?
Yes, I'm relating to this. I'm relating to this.
Unlimited love?
Yes, unlimited love. Because I love you, Sean. Okay, say I love you. Okay.
Unlimited, Sylvia.
You don't make me feel that. I feel that. I'm the one that says, I love you. I'm the one that I'm feeling this, but you don't make me feel that. So when you're talking about love, you're talking about, when you put limits on it, when you say, I can't love you anymore. I can't go further than this. I can't. It's a limiting. It's your own limiting. It's you that's limiting those powers. It's your limiting belief on that. And that's what I think about that.
And how about money too?
Money? Okay, I'm going to change that up a little bit, because I think that once you get to where let's say you want $10,000 and you reach your $10,000 goal. Sometimes doing the same thing does not necessarily get you where you want to go. You want to go to $20,000. So you have to change some things to get there also.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and even still, in the context of the love, couldn't money be just very similar? So maybe you have to do some different things. But isn't it the case that there's probably a limited amount and it would just depend on the person?
You can limit yourself. Yes. Yes, I agree with that. I do agree with that. Oh, good job, Barb.
Sylvia complimented you.
Oh, sorry, I had to sneeze.
Yes. You did good.
And Valerie, for you, your kind of thoughts on all this?
I believe that everyone has upper limit problems. And I think that our limiting beliefs, just Sylvia, in the same way that you said that sometimes you have to change what you're doing in order to move towards your next goal, I think that our limiting beliefs can be the most clever little chameleons ever. And I think they have as much interest in survival as anything else on this planet. And so I feel like they can change and morph. I'll give a practical example. Somebody could earn more money because they're trying to move away from that, feeling of not having enough. And then their limiting belief of I don't have enough could manifest itself by, increasing their spending. So that really, even though they've increased their overall income, their financial reality is the same. I think I'm speaking from personal experience. My financial reality is the same, even though I have made significant advancements in my income in the last 5 years. I may not be all that better off because my limiting belief of I don't have enough has manifested itself with my shoe collection or whatever,
Yes, I can understand that. I do.
Right. And so I think these tricky little chameleons just try to figure out how to survive and fit into the whatever part of my brain they're living in, even if they don't feel like they're the same beliefs that I had before. But I think the theme can be very similar, and that's why it takes such, in my opinion, such hypervigilance to try and eradicate them.
Okay, can I ask a question? Do these things that you do, if you're trying to live on it, you have a budget, I'm sure, but you have a budget, but you're saying that these shoes, I just use these wonderful shoes, are they a reward for you? Are they a reward for the hard work that you do? Are they something that you really have a passion for?
I think that, yes, I enjoy creative self-expression, and that might manifest itself in how I choose to present myself to the world. But I think the bigger reward is that I stay in my comfort zone and I get to hold on to the belief that I don't have enough. I mean, I think that is my bigger motivation in allowing my limiting belief to morph and change as I have morphed and changed. That's its survival. And someday, I think I have moments in my life with money, but with other things too, where I really can embrace abundance. And this is something I've been actively working on for the last couple of years. The reality is I probably am a little better off than I was, but not because I'm making more money, but more because my lens and behaviors, not just attitude, have done some evolution so that I can not be, sabotaging myself.
Can I ask you what that is? What was it that you changed? Mm-hmm. What was it that you changed in your life?
Part of it, so some active things that I've done is making gratitude lists, everything that I am grateful for, which includes things that I physically own. Mm-hmm. And honestly, a lot of mantra type of stuff, that I have enough, that I'm living in abundance. The book that I read has this whole set of exercises where you devote yourself to discovering what your ULPs are, like what your upper limit problems are, but you're supposed to do it in this lighthearted manner. That's the part I struggle with. You're supposed to be like, oh, isn't that cute? There's my ha ha ha. I'm not good at that. Just to like not beat yourself up about it. So kind of just raising my self-awareness of when I'm making decisions that actively put me back in the financial reality that I am so comfortable and familiar with. So it's a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy is the reality of it.
That's a good, I was really kind of surprised by your, what was it, things you were grateful for. I think that's awesome. That is awesome.
I want to take all that just a little bit even more further, because what we're looking at here is essentially changing metaprograms, right, Valerie?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, at essence, what we're looking at doing is instead of focusing on what we don't want and the lack of scarcity, all that stuff, is then changing it to what we do want, whether these are the mantras, all those other things. And sure, we're bringing attention to the limitations, but we want to get past those limitations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a question I have, and this may be something just for consideration, is that what's the difference, or what stops any one person who has a toward strategy compared to somebody else who has that same toward strategy? And so if we look at a large scale example, what's the difference between Stephen, who has a toward strategy, and Anthony Robbins, who also has a toward strategy? Is it that they keep growing, and at some point, where does the limit come up? Or is there a limit? Or is it the case where they just keep growing and they have the challenges, but they don't see the challenges, and they just keep getting over the challenges? And it's something that we can consider, but something that I've been considering for a little while, and I'm still a little bit interested to find the answer for. You guys' thoughts? One thing that might happen is that somebody might see one thing that they want to go towards and get another thing that they want to go towards, and keep going up towards a bunch of different things. And I think that might be potentially a problem, where the more things that they go towards, that they learned and they've taught themselves that it's a good thing to go towards things, but when they go to too many, then that can be something that might limit them.
You mean too many just in terms of the sheer number of things you have to focus on, or what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, so say, for example, you learn that you're doing well in this business, and so then you see another business that you want to go towards and do well in that, and you see another one. And
yeah,
I think this happens sometimes with people who make a good amount of money and then they go and buy a new car. They want to go towards that new car. They don't see any pain in having a car payment. They don't see any loss or any bad things that could happen with that. And so instead they look at all the positives, the benefits, and the pleasure that comes from having a new car, for instance, but they don't, for instance, see the pain of having full coverage auto insurance or having to pay a high deductible or all those things as well.
Well, I think depending upon how you define, I think you're exactly right that any good strategy can run the danger of going awry. You want to be successful, and so you work hard, and you are, and then you reward yourself, like you said, with a car. And then you need to be more successful, so your Chevy sedan wasn't good enough. You have a Porsche so that you look better than your neighbors, and then you've got to have 2 Porsches, and then you got to have 3 boats and a bigger house, and that sort of thing. And you're always moving towards, and you can see it as a positive, but before you know it, it can have caused you all sorts of problems. So I definitely see that. So was your point, how do you define appropriately your moving towards strategies? Or
I think more than anything was just looking at some of the problems that might happen, because what we've seen is that largely this is a more beneficial strategy to have, usually, where certainly it has its exceptions, but it's working out for you, Stephen, and it looks like it's working out for you pretty well as well, Sylvia. And so when we look at this, if I want to go ahead and model this, I want to know the good things that happen with it, and then potentially the negatives that happen with it as well. And so one of the negatives that I was looking at is seeing it if I'm going towards too many things, if I got too much focus going on everywhere. And then sometimes maybe I'm just caught up in too much of the good things that can happen and not really focused on the potential things that I might want to move away from at that point. Me in my personal life, if I look at my away from strategy, it's served me and I've never had to pay a car payment. So that's one thing that I'm thankful for. On the other side of that, I've also never enjoyed the pleasure of owning a brand new car. And so the cost benefit analysis, whichever is better for me. And that's an appropriate strategy. I like that strategy in that situation. But in terms of maybe doing a whole bunch of events, making a ton of money and everything, that's more probably the forward strategy that I would like to have. And so Sylvia, we earlier said that these strategies, these metaprograms, they are context dependent. And so, for example, we'll use one strategy, one metaprogram in one context and another one in other ones. And we'll probably have a favorite metaprogram that we use. So in most situations, you'll probably go towards things. In a few of them, you'll move away from things. Stephen mentioned the time where he saw a grizzly bear. If he was close enough to a grizzly bear, he'd back up first, and then he'd go towards safety. He wouldn't go straight towards safety, but he would back up first, get away from danger, and then go towards something else.
Context dependent.
Yeah.
Can I say something about that, what you're
Go for
talking
it.
about? I was reading Tony Robbins today, and he was talking about making his goals and how he would set up, he would do a meeting or on anybody that he could. He would practice his craft 3 or 4 times a day. So that by the time that his year was up, so that he had the practice that most people would have, he had almost done 5 or 10 years of practice every day. I mean, just every day going out and doing this stuff just to have the practice to do this. So if you're looking at something like that on a long term and you're doing it every day consistently, to get that, I don't want to say it. The more you practice it, the more you work on it, the more you look at it, the more you change it, the more you work with it, the better it gets. The more you become aware and how to work with it and how it works in your life. And it changes you. It works with you. But you have to be aware of it.
I can completely relate with that. And I had actually read that Tony Robbins would do public speaking at least once a week. I think he was trying to do it 3 times a week or something like that. It was a ridiculous amount. And so I taught myself to do that with public speaking as well, where I wasn't moving away from uncomfortable feelings of getting in front of a crowd or anything like that. I wasn't trying to minimize my feelings in front of people, but I was going towards public speaking events. So I'd go to 3 times a week. I'd go to Toastmasters, and every time they needed a speaker, I would go towards say, yep, I'll speak. And so, yeah, you can do it at any time. And I would say, in addition to that, it was a change in the mind where I went towards it, but it was also the repetition of doing it over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you're changing yourself. That's that change. That's that reward that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Other comments and everything? I know that we're coming up here on 8:30 for you guys.
So this is all, the more Barb and I are going through the certification process and really getting deeper into these NLP topics and using other books. We keep buying more books. The more we see the relationship between other ideas, but also the overlap. We sort of discovered just this weekend how hypnosis and the Milton model and state management and now metaprograms are all overlap a lot, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
So I find that really fascinating, and they're self-reinforcing. And when we start understanding one thing better, then I've realized anyway that we start understanding other things more deeply as well.
And there's so many levels to understand it too.
Yeah.
Why I like how we did the group is we kind of got a base level of everything. And then what you'll see is that they interact, as you said, and then each time that you see them interact, you'll also notice the deeper level of understanding with it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, for example, you might have noticed rapport before, but it goes so much more deeper than just matching somebody's body language, where soon you start to match their breathing, and soon you start to match the way they think, whether that's matching their metaprogram, matching their beliefs about the world, or however that is. When you do that, you can build even more rapport there, just as a specific example of all this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and rapport is also kind of overlaps or maybe underlies all of those things also.
Yeah. And it's interesting because we only got through one metaprogram today, but if we go through more and we see those, you'll see how they're both related to that one metaprogram, but you'll also see how they're related to the whole context of NLP even deeper further as far as that goes as well.
Yeah. I hope everybody enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. I would love to learn more from you, Sean, about other metaprograms.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd love to keep doing it. If this time works for you guys every Monday, then I'm free to do it for you guys. I still enjoy teaching, and I've really missed interacting with you guys and giving back my knowledge of NLP as well.
Yeah, I think we're all in.
Yeah.
We're all in.
Okay. And I mean, if other people want to join, I know you guys, describe for me how the group's going and just what specifically you guys are doing.
It's been a little bit of mishmash so far, which I think is okay. For example, I led a discussion. Well, we went back to presuppositions. We did another kind of in-depth discussion about those. And then Robert wanted to, I think he did 2 in a row on faster EFT, which was really interesting. And then Chuck is, well, actually, I think he's in Afghanistan now, but Chuck and Brisa had gone to like a 3-day weekend, I think, in Las Vegas about hypnotism. So I asked him if he wanted to teach something on hypnotism before he disappeared to Afghanistan for 6 months. So he did that.
Ooh, how was that?
That was really interesting. He even brought in his kind of mentor who couldn't quite get me hypnotized, but that was maybe...
You were totally hypnotized. Don't even try to downplay it.
Because my fingers went together.
Was that Robert?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I know Robert.
Yeah.
I learned from him as well.
What's that?
I learned from him as well.
Yeah. I think I was partway there, Valerie. I'm not sure if you're serious or if you're just giving me a hard time, but Robert wasn't.
Sure. Partway
Robert,
there. It was great, don't you think?
No. Oh, and we need to ask you about how your work retreat with your hypnosis shtick went. But
2 seconds, I learned firsthand the primal fear that it raises in people, and so I learned to shut up real quick.
I wouldn't be.
It wasn't worth it.
Surprised. Yeah.
Talking
Really
about hypnosis at work.
Yeah, like there were 3 people that were excited for me because I was so excited that I had just learned it. my mentor perfectly versed in it, so he wasn't afraid of it. But the majority of my coworkers looked at me and said, "That's frightening. You learned how to do that? I'm scared."
Oh,
And
Wow.
it was very like I was kind of like, ooh, maybe I don't want to do this at work. So
Yeah, I
it's a
can
little
see that.
disheartening, although I should expect it maybe because they're just human. But
Yeah.
You just got to learn to do it without trance.
Without trance, is that what you said?
Yeah, so
True.
as I'm talking to you now, you can start to understand these even more deeply, and you can
Mhm.
start to feel it even
Yeah.
inside of you that you're going to understand this exactly how you need to.
Yeah, just like I can feel this chair, I can relate to the words that you're saying, and yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a opportunity within a challenge. I like doing that a lot in any conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so to finish up your the answer to your question, we've gotten one new guy in the group who's coming regularly. His name is YL, originally from Egypt. Really neat guy, and so he was there last week. Well, we skipped a week with Barb and I gone. I think that was when Valerie was on her her work retreat. And then Sylvia led us on
hypnotic language.
hypnotic language, and I'm trying to think what the kind of bigger topic was, Sylvia. I've got it right here, but what was it that there were examples, exercises of what
Yeah,
was
of
it?
what was it? I don't know. It's like I did it, I saw it. It just builds a better rapport with people when you're using hypnosis,
Yeah.
right? It kind of
Yeah, I think it was sort of problem solving with people that are difficult to work with, and using language that sort of goes around their conscious and goes right to their unconscious mind, separates I think their emotion from the problem at hand. That's the concept I took away from it.
yeah.
So we've all been enjoying it, taking turns leading it. The idea is we're all going to try to kind of improve together, Sean. And then perhaps at some point in the future, if we're all comfortable, maybe we open the group back up again like you did to, like to meet up or something, and maybe start growing it again.
Yeah. I had the girl that I knew, she came to the first meetup for us in NLP, Colorado Springs, back in February. And I had been in touch with her, but she had practitioner training, took master practitioner training, trained with Bandler and Grinder. I think this Bandler actually. But she had reached out to me and she noticed that the group was going down. And so she had expressed a little bit of interest in saving the group. And I told her, just, if you want to, go ahead and start up a new one, and I'll send you those people that are doing it. And I'm not sure if she was along that track with it, but
What was her name? Was it Danita?
Danita, that's right.
Okay, yeah. She, I don't know how it works behind the scenes at Meetup, but she actually stepped in, became the organizer for our group, and then reached out to Barb and I, and asked if we could keep going if she would be the organizer.
Oh, did she do that?
Yeah, but then she almost immediately stepped back down as the organizer.
Okay.
And I think Barb responded to one of her emails, but did she ever respond back to you?
No. Well, she said she was going to try to make last Thursday's meetup, but she didn't show up.
Okay.
But she also said she has a client on Thursday evenings. So.
Okay. It could be because I told her not to be the organizer.
Oh.
Because I remember it was like 48 hours or your group goes off into the abyss, right? And so she emailed me and she's like, hey, I want to go ahead and take care of the group. Is that okay? And I'm like, yeah, it's more than okay, but I recommend just starting your own so you can get more new people. And she's like, oh, okay, thanks. I'll consider that. I didn't hear whether she'd go forward with that or not. So yeah, I imagine that she will.
Great resource for us. but
Yeah.
she's kind of disappeared for now. We'd love to get in touch with her.
And I
again.
was really hoping that she'd go all in and she'd be there with the group when we started in February. But I mean, if she comes back now, I mean, she's so smart. She knows all these different things. She knows a few more other modalities too, like EMDR.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But yeah, she's read all the books that I've read, and she's taken more trainings, and definitely
Cool.
a smart woman with NLP.
Okay. Yeah, we weren't quite sure what was going on there. I'm glad we've closed that loop.
Yeah.
So
So the way that you guys will all keep going is just meet on Thursday nights, where you guys will have a different trainer each Thursday night doing a different topic, or
it's kind of situation dependent.
okay.
I think the next couple ones I'm probably going to be leading, and I'm reading Unlimited Power. So I really like the way he laid the basis for the whole book, and the first chapters on state management, identifying state and then learning to control it and run your own mind. So right now I'm thinking that's what I'm going to kind of focus on for the next several times. And then I don't know where it'll go from there.
Okay.
But we'll probably figure it out before we get there.
But just once every week on Thursday.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So then
Valerie had a bunch of things she was going to teach as well. And we haven't gotten there yet either.
And so this will be good for just Monday nights.
Yeah, I think so. Does this work for you, Valerie and Sylvia, every Monday night?
Mhm.
Okay.
I will. So Monday night, I might be late, which I actually hate being late, but I may not be able to jump onto this until the top of the hour.
Okay.
But if you guys are okay with me missing the first half hour when that happens, I'd rather jump on than be late than miss it.
Would it be something you guys would rather do Tuesdays?
I absolutely can't on
Okay.
Tuesday.
Would it be a problem for you, Sean, to move it back a half an hour?
No. I do like the co-working space not having as many people, but not a problem. The other option is Sunday nights. I'm just throwing that out there. Their idea.
That would be super easy for me.
Yeah, that might actually be better for us too.
I think it might actually, yeah.
Sylvia?
That's fine with me too.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll do that then. We'll do Sunday nights 6:30.
Yay!
We want you here the whole time, Valerie.
What?
We want you here the whole time.
Well, I just thank you, because I feel like, to me, that doesn't create any conflict for me at all. Like, I know I could.
Right.
Okay.
I'd have to be really. I don't know what would happen. Anyway.
Sean, you want to, send out the email and with
Sure.
the update for everybody, and
Then I kind of just have two general follow-up questions on the content. Do you guys really want like an in-depth description about what's going on? I know this one was Metaprograms, and I ran through like a little bit about it. Is that helpful?
Yes, I think so. I mean, between the email that you sent describing it, and then the document that I went and printed off at the beginning,
Okay.
it was very much like you were almost here, like it used to be. And I thought that was good.
This was interesting because at first it felt kind of intense, just having everybody like right here and like kind of on your face looking at you, waiting for you to talk. But it actually made for a really good discussion, and the way that this platform works is it's really intuitive with who's talking where, and
Right.
you just kind of adapt to it, and I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, no, I agree. It worked out pretty well.
And the other added question, the thing that I was wondering is the potential to add more people. My thoughts, and I'm just kind of wondering how that would work, depending if we added more people and what that would look like. Because I kind of like it, how small it was now. Maybe it could do with a few more people. Or maybe it could grow even bigger. I'm just kind of wondering your guys' thoughts on that.
Well, what's the practical limit on this platform?
There's not. I live on Zoom at work.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with you, Sean, as a concern that getting too much bigger could be problematic, because this was a really good interactive conversation, I thought, tonight. I guess the question is, how big is too big? Do you have thoughts on that, Valerie?
Yeah, I would say 6 to 8. Anything beyond that, and it's not about the platform, but it's just about the ability to stay engaged and keep the conversation going. I think that for us, we're engaged enough that if we could probably be a little bit quieter if we had a larger group, but still get a lot out of it. But for somebody that's new to the material, they're going to need more interaction from the facilitator to not get distracted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But, if the group became really popular and that were the case, we could always split when we needed to. So if we got a lot of traction and we needed this to be a smaller environment, I don't think that should stop us from growing. There's ways around that. And
I'm thinking putting these on YouTube, maybe taking the video, cutting it a little bit so it's a little bit more user-friendly for somebody who was interested and wanted to go ahead and take a look and see. Or if the group members just wanted it. I believe Chris was interested in joining and she wanted to get the recording. So I'll put that up for her.
Okay. Yeah, I think she's still traveling.
Yeah, she's in New Zealand, I think.
Yeah, she went to Australia for a training, and then I saw a few other locations on there.
Yeah, New Zealand. She was going to go back through Dubai and Abu Dhabi, I think, and maybe one other place.
Okay. What was that beep? Is that you guys? Oh no, that was something else. I heard a beep in the background. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean the platform's great. It only costs like $15 a month, so that's good, and we'll just keep this going for you guys.
Okay. Cool.
All right, we'll see you guys Sunday.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
See you Sunday.
Sounds great. Thanks, Sean. It's great seeing you again.
Yeah.
Keep that hair growing.
There we go.
So are we meeting on Thursday?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send an email. Yeah, I should send an email out today. And then I should get ready and prepping for it.
Okay.
It's good seeing you again, Sylvia.
It's good to see you too. Look forward to seeing you on Thursday.
Yes. Get my mom to those Thursday training.
Yeah, get your mom to Thursday's training.
Yeah. Yeah. She hasn't. I don't think she's been there. Has she been to any yet? Once? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, as we were talking, where you have to make that decision for change in your life, you're going to be constantly tested by that decision. And so she had the opportunity earlier in this year to let my sister go on her own way and see if she could fly with her own wings. And she made that decision. And now she was tested with that decision once again to see if she would do that.
Okay. So she's saying she's got other things going on that are...
She's been challenged with it, yeah.
Yeah.
And so my hope is that she'll get back in the group and have some positive, uplifting people there for her. What really came to me and what I've learned in the past 6 months and everything, and part of the reason I came back was to help everybody. And so what I really wanted to do was help my mom, help my sister, help my whole family. And I wanted to build a group, help some people there as well. And what I learned is that you can really only help people that want to be helped and that are willing to make the efforts to help themselves as well. And so while I could have stayed there and still helped and everything else, what was most important was to take care of me, find my path, my way, and then help as many people as I could go from there. In addition to that, what I also learned, and this was huge for me when I first got over here, was the fact that I would go to these places and I would build a group or I would build a tribe and I would have people that were following me or interested in what I had, and I would leave them. And I kept doing this over and over again, and I noticed this reoccurring pattern for me where it was, with a girlfriend where, we'd be together, she was following me, it was great, and then I would end up leaving, or it was a friend or a company or anything like that. And what I finally came to was that the tribe just, it stays wherever, and as long as they're able to come together, then I can go ahead and be part of that tribe and lead the tribe in the way that I can. But I learned that it's better for me if I stay with the tribe. That makes sense.
Cool. Well, we're glad you're still with us.
Yes.
Yeah, and not going anywhere, even though there's tons of miles of distance. It's nothing these days.
That's
Plus,
true, obviously.
Plus, I'll be showing you guys some beautiful scenery in the areas of this co-working space.
Yeah. I'm waiting for you to start doing this when you're out on the beach.
I have to. What's interesting is because they have a members breakfast here today, or else I would have shot right by the pool.
Oh,
and so,
yeah, very nice.
So next Monday, I can probably make that shot happen for you guys. You can see me in the swimsuit on the pool side.
Well, I don't know about the swimsuit part, but I definitely want to see the pool side.
Well, let's be honest. We show that clip on YouTube. We're gonna get so many members to join and everything, and then we'll exceed our 6 to 8 limit here, and then it won't be any good.
You still have that 6-pack, right?
I'm still moving away from not losing it.
Yeah. It's all about attitude, Sean. You just need to reframe that moving away to moving towards.
Yeah. That attitude, huh, Valerie?
Right.
Great speaking with you guys. We'll talk Sunday.
Okay.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Sean.
Sean.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.